Okay, we're going to talk about Sumeru as a whole. Now that I have explored everything, right? I have done all the main quests. I have done all the world quests. I have unlocked all the parts, all the secrets, all the teleport points unlocked, all the what is this called? The wave rider waypoints, the domains, and everything. I've done everything. I've been here, done that, did this, did that. And I have the commissions, I have done the bounties, and I've done the what was that, requests? So I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel very qualified, well, very, more than qualified, more than minimally qualified to talk about Sumeru as an exploration. The goods and the bads, and the biggest changes about Sumeru. I want to ask a question. How long till I clear Aranara quest for doing Golem we found in Sumeru? Not that much. It doesn't take that long. Anyways, Sumeru. Okay. I think we should discuss Sumeru beginning with what Hoyoverse changed from its old perspective, right? And I'm probably gonna walk around different cities and different areas around Sumeru. There's two huge things. There's two gigantic points that Hoyoverse changed in Sumeru, contrary to what we experienced in Inazuma when it first came out. And these two huge changes made Sumeru for the better. Number one is that there's actually no time gating in Sumeru. Surprisingly. There are a few quests that you have to wait another day to pass by. Like, when I mean my day, I don't mean like doing the time change mechanic like this thing. We're not skipping time like this. I mean like actual real days. In Inazuma, there were two areas that were strictly time gated, and that was the Tatarasuna, and I believe this island, Surumi Island. I think that's what it's called. These two islands were time gated, so even if we wanted to explore these new areas, we couldn't because they time gated it, right? Some of the areas were, just didn't let us. And time gating content is a very common practice in gacha games, and it's primarily for one reason and one reason only, is to stop players from speedrunning the whole content and run out of content immediately, which is a very fair point. But to some of the people, it is kind of annoying. However, in Sumeru, they decided, screw that, and they decided to make the world quest and the story quest really long. Now that, I think, is a better one. If you did it with like really lengthy quests, then you need to make a really good story. You need to have like a really good build up around it. It's an execution that is really risky for Hoyoverse to do, but they executed it rather well. And because of that, the game actually suddenly changes in Sumeru a little bit. If you actually believe that, Genshin Impact was like playing one huge Breath of the Wild, it felt like Breath of the Wild, right? Because it is a Breath of the Wild copy kind of game. When you go into Sumeru, the game changes. You're not really exactly playing Breath of the Wild. It ends up playing like as if you're playing the Ocarina of Time. And what I mean about this, right? The Breath of the Wild lets you explore the whole world from the very beginning. If you look at all the map around this whole area in 1.0, they allowed us to explore every single part of this continent without the consequences of world map or anything. In Azuma, we locked us in Rito for the first time, but then once you pass Rito, everything else is pretty much available for you to explore. And then, of course, there are like certain areas that are just like gated behind several key quest points. But most of the times, once you unlock that one area, you could just explore the whole thing. Sumeru kind of does that at the very beginning. At the very beginning, you see that you can explore these areas whenever you want to. However, a good amount of it also is locked by story progress. And that is the world quest. The world quest is 8 to 10 hours of a lot of story quests to deal with, and it's and because of that, once you unlock key points of the world quest, you start to get new gears to like traverse through the areas. You see new dungeons, you see new underground areas where you first saw it, you were like, oh my god, that looks cool, and you finally get in there because it was locked by the world quest this whole time. One big Inazuma issue is needed to progress the story in order to travel to Inazuma. Yeah, no. In Sumeru, you just drop it in real quick. Again, this is usually a bad thing if the quests are bad. But as a person who have done every single part of the world quest in Sumeru, it is probably one of the best designed quests I have seen. And it only accentuates the pleasure of exploring Sumeru. It's actually insane how deceiving this map is. It is, chat, you have to realize that this map is I think Genshin needs a 3D map. That's what I think. This topographic 2D map isn't gonna cut it, chat. Sumeru, there's a lot of areas that like kind of helps you with that. The chasm and Kanomiya kind of like let us realize, okay, maybe we do kind of want a 3D map if we want. But Sumeru 100% does require 3D map. Because this map is a fucking lie. This map is just literally the surface. Because there are so many things inside this map that no one has ever explored until you do the world quest. It is massive. And yeah, it's you will get overwhelmed once you start the world quest. But we have like, this is 3.0. This is the beginning of Sumeru, so it is okay for you to pace yourself. You pace yourself going how you want. Don't let people spoil you. I'm gonna try not to spoil everything. That's pretty much what I'm gonna do. And the Ocarina of Time method, which is to have most of the things explore freedom, but then have key points unlocked by story quests. It makes that landmark more meaningful, right? So if you were, let's say you explored everything in this area, you explored every single landmark in Genshin or Breath of the Wild, it's really easy to just pass the lores of those places. If those landmarks had some meaningful lore and they weren't really like story quests to guide you immediately, you're kind of fucked. That landmark would have been really amazing places to be, but like you just skip it because straight up you just didn't know what it was. And one key point that comes into mind with Guyon Storm Forest, because you get to make it to Guyon Storm Forest without any of the help. But if you haven't done any of the Zhongli's quests, this area will be absolutely fucking meaningless to you. Yeah. And once you have a quest, they say to go here, go there, but you've already explored that place. So you're just backtracking, you're just robbed of that immediate moment of like exploration, like a new exploring effect, which is quite unfortunate. But Sumeru doesn't really do that. When they lock the area, they make sure that once you go in, you are hit with the story at the same time. They give you a little tour around. There's a tour guide. There's pretty much a tour guide explaining, yeah, this area is very important of X, Y, and Z. There was this lore in here, and this is why we're here. We're doing really important stuff here. And I think Sumeru does that really well. And that is probably one of my highest points about Sumeru, more than anything. And number two, now that's number one. Let's get that point out of the way. Otherwise, it's me straggling on about this whole area and secrets. And number two, another biggest thing that Sumeru changed in exploration and just doing daily stuff is that they got rid of tedium. It's actually... And you can see that 100% in the daily commissions, bounty, and requests. Most of them, when you go to Inazuma or any other places, there are like a bunch of commissions there, and there are certain things that are just really tedious for you to do every day. A lot of people deny doing Inazuma commissions because they're so stretched out. They're so far away from the teleport points. You have to go back and forth. Liyue also has a similar problem going back and forth. However, Sumeru's commissions, at least so far, about like 5 days of doing Sumeru commissions, barely has any of those. In fact, most of them are like literally down to earth, straight to the point. You do this and you're done. But you know, a lot of people would say like, well, won't that cut content? Won't that cut like the daily playtime of Genshin Impact? But you're not going to be playing the Genshin Impact for that short time, going, ugh. And I think that's pretty meaningful. I think that's pretty meaningful, honestly. If you ask me. The fact that when I do the daily commissions, I'm not doing a little sigh of annoyance or just any form of expressing displeasure, discomfort about doing stuff in Sumeru. Now, and I think that's a really amazing thing. Yeah, and I think that's a very valid point. It makes Genshin, at least it makes the daily cycle a lot more bearable to come back to. Imagine your daily commissions. You have to do the daily commissions every day, right? But imagine those daily commissions is just straggling on and on and on with meaningless things, and you're just getting really lazy to do them. Sumeru is really not that kind of thing. I just say, oh sweet, I'm just gonna do this real quick and I'm done. At least by that point, your experience, your very few instances of experiencing Genshin Impact is very, very, very dampened, which is an amazing thing to do. I'm not that attention. If I feel displeasure, I just stop playing for some time. I haven't explored Sumeru. I've been living in the jungle. Yeah, right. But definitely, tedium is literally out of the picture. There's also like a new equipments. By new equipments, it's pretty much an old one, but they just kind of refined it. One of the biggest thing in Sumeru, which I would absolutely love for them asking, is this fucking thing. I swear to God, if Sumeru didn't have these grappling points, I think Sumeru could have been a very, very annoying place to explore. They don't have any gimmicks. The gimmick is actually this, and this is a very pleasurable gimmick. And you know, to the back of the class going, but X, you already have those in Inazuma. Doesn't that make your point stupid? Because we already could do that, and Sumeru just only copied off Inazuma? Yeah, but like you don't have to go look for the fucking Electrogranas, right? In Inazuma, even if you saw those like zipline things, you had to go back and find the nearest Electrograna stuff, and if you couldn't find it, you're fucked. You're kind of like stuck in a loop again. And there's areas you just need Electrograna all the time, but these places are almost everywhere. These grappling hooks in Sumeru, you can do that in an instant. It's actually a lot faster. It's actually a lot faster than the one that's in Inazuma. It's insane. How much would you recommend Zhongli? Very much. But same logic applies here. No, you have to find that grappling hook thing here. Yeah, but you don't. The thing is, even if you don't, it's more like a convenience more than a must, right? Sometimes in Inazuma, there's areas that you must use the grappling hook to get into, but the grappling hook in Sumeru doesn't feel forced. It's just a thing that you can use to just whoosh out of there. Climbing a mountain until you see the other side, there is a grappling. Yeah. Also, the range on these things, right? Oh, hell. The range on these grappling hooks are actually like insanely huge. I was actually surprised how far I can extend myself to get into these things. I can't get those meat. And also, another complaint people had about Sumeru was that there are, I think one of my friends told me before when they played Genshin 1.0, the Genshin world map seemed very mundane because it was all green. And to be fair, he wasn't wrong. Like, you have a shade of yellow and a shade of green here, but the fact stand that like most of the place you're going to would be Greenlands. And people are wowed for a good time with Inazuma because finally we had like more unique looking structures around the area. Like we have Watatsumi Island, which a whole shade of color is different. This place as well. I have nothing to say for Samurai. And then we have the underground map, which finally switched things around, which was the chasm. And we had Enkanomiya, which is more of like more mythical place to be in. So when my friend saw Sumeru's basic design, he was saying, "Oh, great! This is just gonna be another Greenland specific areas." But while to a certain extent that is true, it is kind of true. It is mostly Greenlands, but it's more like a very different kind of green. It's like a very jungly green, and I really love doing that. So, the greens are to let players experience touching grass virtually. Yeah, this is also a nation of Dendro, so even if they really wanted to try, they really couldn't do much about that situation. So it's one of those situations where it's really unfortunate that most of it's green currently, but due to the circumstances of how Sumeru is supposed to be, we should let that slide, right? And besides, later on we're gonna have a desert coming on soon, so I don't think it's fair to judge the greenness of Sumeru just yet. So those are the two big main points that I have about Sumeru that I absolutely love that Hoyoverse has improved upon, right? Hoyoverse definitely improved upon from this whole scenario. And not to mention that there are like locations that are absolutely great. The music is also amazing. I think one of my favorite places to visit, no matter what, in Sumeru, is not even Port Ormos. I don't like Port Ormos has like one of the banger music, but Vanarana is by far one of my most favorite places in Sumeru. Like top, no cap, doesn't come close with any other contenders. Vanarana is an absolute treat to just walk around and enjoy, and a lot of people won't understand why if you haven't played the world quest, but I as much as I really want to say it, this place is much better if I just put it just at that and let you guys enjoy it at your own pace. But I have to say it, Vanarana is definitely like one of the magnum opus small cities Hoyoverse has ever created, in my opinion. Like every other place, that's also really cool, but like it just feels like a city. But Vanarana definitely do hit different. And I love the music. Actually, a hot take. I like the place. I like the music in Vanarana more than Port Ormos. Just letting that out there. You know, I'm just gonna say it outright. You know, Chan. And I hope you'll excuse me with that very hot of a take, but it is true. I love this place more. Now, should we go into the downsides of Sumeru? I know, right? XD calling downsides on this map. It's more like what hasn't Hoyoverse fixed that really should have been, you know, taken care of a lot earlier on, more than... Because if I just say, oh, this is just a problem in Sumeru, that sounds like nitpicking, because I realized it's kind of like the same situation with a couple of other areas in this whole world map. And one of the biggest thing that I do have a bit of an issue with Sumeru, and now hold on, just don't leave, is the verticality. And verticality in terms of teleport points. Again, I said this a lot earlier where I wish the Genshin map was a 3D or at least had layers and not just like a 2D thing. Because just from the looks of these places, it feels like these teleporters are way too close to each other. But you realize that, you know, there's a lot of verticality. Remember when I said that this map is literally scratching the surface? So they do have teleporters set up in secret areas as well. But we don't have any idea to tell which one's which, right? The only thing we can tell is, like, you know, Ardavi Valley. Yeah, like... This is also another big issue that I have, is that this is the only information we get from the teleport point. Oh, we're going to Visudha Field. Or, actually, this is a very perfect example. We're going to Ardavi Valley. What part of Ardavi Valley? This part? Which one's this part of Ardavi Valley? What's this part of Ardavi Valley? What's this part of Ardavi Valley? We can't even know, because the explanation of the teleport waypoint is literally the same thing. All devices that are scattered across Tevat, seemingly forming a certain order. People on the continent see them as ancient gimmicks. They are accustomed to their existence despite not knowing their purpose. To a foreign traveler, however, their function becomes quite apparent. You know what I wish they could have done? This. I wish they could have done this for every single teleport point. Every single teleport point, in my opinion, should have a little bit of screenshot of like like an area, like it should have a screenshot of a basic grasp of where you're going to be teleporting to, and then a little bit of description. It can be just a lore thing, you know. It can be a little lore thing about, like, for example, let's say you want to teleport to Guyan Forest. That is actually a very terrible example because there was only one teleport point. But what it should be like, Ski of Clouds leeway, and then have a screenshot of like the Guyan Stone Forest, a little bit of like a screenshot around. Like the Google Maps kind of thing, and then on this here, and it should be like a description, should be like, this is once where one of the Archon War battle has taken place. The stones left, the islands left behind are actually stone pillars. It's thrown by Rex Lapis. That could have been enough for a person to go by and just like, oh, that's the place I want to go to right now. Boom. This one doesn't help out, right? These two teleport points specifically, they're next to each other. Let's go to the one on the right. It teleports me on top of the mountain. Sweet. All right. So where's this going? If you teleport here, it's straight up underground. It is literally underground of the whole ass map. And we could not tell each one apart unless you memorized it in your head. I dead ass had trouble recognizing which teleporter was which until I got it ingrained in my memory. So I wish the solution number one is to make map have a multiple layers or make it 3D. Or solution number two is to have a little bit of like a screenshot and an explanation of the area. Just a brief explanation would be fine. And it would be fine. And I just don't understand why that's kind of an issue. That's honestly the biggest thing, honestly. Number two, and this is the nitpicky territory because every region has the same issue, is collecting stuff. It also has to do with verticality, but my god, finding some of the items are really much of a hassle in Sumeru. You have to zip zap zop everywhere in the area to find the mushrooms. You have to swim a lot to get the lotuses. And there's in fact like half of the mushroom locations for Calais is bound by world quest. So you legit have to play the world quest to unlock some of the mushroom locations. And considering right now that a lot of people don't have Tainari, you wouldn't be able to find the mushrooms are like hidden underneath top cap or here and there unless you look at the Tevat interactive map or found some video explaining the route of farming some of the things. Yeah, if you don't have Tainari, so many of these mushrooms are insanely skippable. You just miss them. It's kind of ridiculous. But like I can't say much about it because Inazuma, Leeway, and Mondstadt also suffers the same issue. Leeway had the fucking what was those things? What's the thing the Chi-Chi has? What's that called? What's the item called? The item was called the item was called the violet grass. This one was, you know, pretty much on the cliff side, which is a very, very hassle to get through. And we also had the Onikabutos in Inazuma, which is also very hard to. And honestly, Rikuchava mushrooms are pretty much up there in the same leagues. It's still better than Onikabuto. I hate picking it, you know. Yeah. That's why I said this is nitpicking. But it's most likely just evident that, like, you know, Hoyoverse might have just tried to force us to do more of these hassle exploration things by itself. Aside from that, another worry that I have is wither zones. So if you've already explored a good amount of Sumeru, you might have found out that there are wither zones that you can get through. I've done a good number of wither zones, but I don't see them respawning. So unless people can correct me wrong, like right now, I'm a little worried that the wither zones are unrespawnable and they, like, once you're done with them, you can't see them. I hope that is wrong. I hope they have like a little time frame. I hope there's a cooldown, that like after a certain time the areas become withered again, because Wither Zone, in my opinion, is also one of the great aspects of Sumeru, which sounds awful because, you know, Wither Zone in Sumeru means like a catastrophic kind of situation for the people of Sumeru, but like it's actual content for us. But yeah, and not to mention Sumeru, in my opinion, someone can just this is a very weak point, and this is a very disagreeable point with many of the people. I don't think they fixed anything at all with like post exploration content. Like once you're done exploring an area, you tend to not go back. One of the biggest thing is this area. Dragonspine was one of the biggest offenders of that. Like once you explore an area, there's really nothing for you to do, so you just end up not going. Chasm also kind of has that issue. Once you're done exploring all of Chasm, apart from farming the boss, you're kind of done. So that's why I say play Sumeru at your own pace, because once you've done everything, once you get all the chests in the area, Sumeru falls into the same pattern of, yay, explored everything, what do? And then all you get is silence. But whether or not you have gone through here and there, but I think the biggest review of it all, like the conclusion of it all, is that Sumeru is just really well built, and I definitely love the change of pace in the game entirely. It took me a while for me to just realize that I am playing Genshin, because sometimes it just felt like I'm not playing Genshin, and that is mind-boggling to me, and it's really fun still, right? At a certain point, I'm just like, am I actually playing Genshin Impact, or am I playing in a wholly different game? Like, it has the same exploration kind of ideals with Genshin Impact, but somehow feels amazingly different. But no, that shouldn't be a criticizing point towards Hoyoverse, in my opinion. That's a little unfair for you to argue so. It's my fault for speeding through the content. I speeded through the content so I can supply theory crafting or like these review kinds of things for you guys a lot earlier on. So it is my fault, technically. It is my fault for speeding through all of this content as fast as I can out of my own ass. But if you have been pacing yourself and enjoying this game slowly, this game definitely tells you that, you know, this game should be enjoyed at a very stable and slow pace. That's for sure. Also, another sad point is that with Content Sumeru out, they still have no endgame. Abyss is technically the endgame, but it's not enough. For the game to depend endgame solely on Abyss is still very bad. And I hope they really do think of a new endgame material. Otherwise, while Sumeru is a wonderful place, I don't see Sumeru leading the way, paving the way for fixing all of Hoyoverse's issues. Because if Sumeru, at the end of the day, even if the new content turns out to be like Sumeru, like this part of Sumeru, an amazing and wondrous place, if the content still stays the same, only thing that is being wowed by would be exploration. But once you reach endgame, it just becomes another husk of a game. And I'm still desperately waiting for the day that gets fixed. But aside from that, I believe Sumeru is a step in the right direction. Something that other games, Tower Fantasy, should be doing, instead of time gaining people of content, and actually letting people enjoy the game at their own pace, at their own risk, but also enjoying the pure exploration as you learn the layouts and the lore of the area. Because at the end of the day, if you explore every single part of Sumeru and you have, you know, done everything and you've grown bored of it, just remember that the forest will always remember you. And with that, I think that's good enough cutoff point for the discussion for Sumeru review. Unless you guys have any other questions regarding Sumeru exploration, which I can happily answer to.